trapped beneath the blue storm. The crash happened fast. One moment the Earthship was flying over the frozen planet of Thozor. The next it was spinning out of control. Alarms screamed, lights flickered red, metal tore apart like paper. The storm outside was too strong. Wind slammed the ship, ice covered the engines. 12-year-old Liam held onto his seat, crying out. His father had told him this was a safe science mission. Just a trip. Nothing more. But now everything was gone. When Liam opened his eyes, everything was quiet. Too quiet. The windows were cracked and snow blew in like dust. He pushed the emergency release. The door jammed. He kicked, screamed, then it burst open, and a wave of cold wind hit his face like knives. The sky above was all white. No sun. Just swirling clouds and blue snow. Liam stumbled out, his breath turning to fog. All around him were pieces of the ship. Broken. Burning. Silent. "Mom? Dad?" he called out. No answer. He searched the wreckage. Found 2 bodies under ice. Covered. Their faces. Then kept moving, numb from inside. His hands were shaking and his legs felt weak. The snow kept falling harder. The planet's temperature was dropping fast. His smartwatch blinked. 42 degrees. Warning, critical survival zone. He had only a thin jacket, no food, no shelter, no help. The storm screamed louder. Liam fell to his knees. He was too tired, too cold. The wind howled like a beast. And in that moment he thought this was it. He would die here. Lost, forgotten. But then, something moved in the mist. Not a sound, just a shape. Big, low to the ground. It walked like a beast, but not like anything, from Earth. Silver fur, long claws, and glowing golden eyes. The shape stepped closer, quiet as a shadow. Liam froze. He remembered stories. Warnings in the mission brief about a creature that lived in the Icelands. Locals called it the Frozari beast. The aliens said it hunted everything, even soldiers, even machines. Everyone feared it. The creature stared at Liam. Its breath steamed in the cold air. A low growl rumbled in its throat. Liam didn't move. He couldn't. The creature stepped closer and sniffed him. Its nose was wet and warm. It looked deep into his eyes. Then something strange happened. The creature didn't attack. It lowered its head. Then, slowly, gently, it curled its large body around Liam, shielding him from the wind. Its thick fur wrapped around him like a blanket, warm, alive. Liam didn't understand. Why wasn't it eating him? He sat there, heart racing, but the creature stayed calm. Its eyes closed. It seemed peaceful. He whispered, "Why are you helping me?" Of course, it didn't answer, but it stayed close, guarding him from the storm. Hours passed. When Liam woke again, the sky was dark. The storm was worse. But he was still alive, thanks to the creature's body heat. Then it stood up, looked back at him, growled softly, then began walking. Liam knew he had a choice. Stay here and freeze, or follow. He followed. The snow was deep. Each step was hard, but the creature waited for him. It moved slowly, letting him catch up. Soon they reached a dark crack in the side of a blue mountain, a hidden cave. The creature led him inside. The cave glowed with strange blue crystals. It was warmer here, safe, quiet. Liam dropped to the floor. His legs shook, but he smiled. For the first time since the crash, the creature sat at the entrance like a silent guard, watching the snow, listening. Liam looked at her, because now he was sure it was a her. The way she moved, the way she protected him. It wasn't by mistake. He whispered, "I'll call you, Neva." The name felt right. The creature looked at him when he said it, then looked away again. He lay back, staring at the glowing ceiling. He had lost everything, his family, his ship, his home. But maybe he had found something else. Maybe the creature everyone feared was not a monster. Maybe she was his only hope. Liam opened his eyes slowly. The warmth still surrounded him, but this time, it wasn't fire or a blanket. It was the soft breathing of the large silver creature beside him. Her fur glowed faintly from the blue crystals that lit the cave walls. He didn't know how long he had slept. Hours? A whole day? His body felt weak, but alive. His fingers could move again. He wasn't frozen anymore. The creature sat quietly at the mouth of the cave, her massive frame blocking the wind outside. She watched the white storm dance like angry ghosts in the cold. Liam stared at her from where he lay, heart still thumping, with disbelief. Was this all real? Had he really survived because of her? And why? That was the question that kept biting at his thoughts. Why would something that powerful, something feared by so many, save a weak human boy? She turned her head. Her golden eyes locked onto his. They weren't wild eyes, not savage, not empty. They were full of something thinking, alive. She watched him not like prey, but like someone trying to understand what he was. Liam sat up slowly, careful not to make any sudden movements. His limbs ached from the cold, but the cave had brought him back from the edge. He tried to speak. "Thank you," he said, voice small. The creature tilted her head slightly, like she was listening. His stomach growled loudly and he flinched. He hadn't eaten since the crash. The creature turned and padded silently to the far end of the cave. She returned with something in her mouth, a piece of meat, frozen and rough. She dropped it beside him. Liam stared at it. It wasn't human food. It smelled strange. But it was food. He looked at her again. "Is this for me?" he asked. "No." Reply, of course, but she didn't take it back. Liam tore a piece off and forced himself to chew. It was tough, salty, wild, but it helped. His body needed it. The creature lay down beside the cave's entrance again, curling her tail beside her like a great furry blanket. The storm outside kept howling. He watched her closely, studying the shape of her ears, the curve of her spine, the sharp tips of her claws and her thick silver coat. She could have killed him easily. She could have left him in the snow, but she didn't. She saved him, brought him here, fed him. "Why are you helping me?" he asked softly. "You're supposed to be dangerous." She blinked slowly. Liam tried to remember what the alien guides had said about this planet. Thozor was known as a frozen death world. Creatures here were hostile. The Frozari beasts were never caught, never studied. They were shadows, ghosts in the snow. Soldiers once tried to capture one. They all disappeared. But Neva didn't act like a monster. She was calm, quiet, controlled, like she understood things he couldn't explain. He stood up slowly and walked toward her. She didn't growl, didn't flinch. He was close enough to touch her fur, but he stopped. Not yet. The firelight danced over her eyes. He whispered, "I don't think you're a beast. I think you're something more." He returned to his spot and pulled his thin jacket tighter. The cave was cold but bearable. His watch blinked a weaker warning. He had a few more hours before hypothermia returned. He needed more warmth. Fire. He checked his belt. His emergency pack was still there. The solar cell inside had broken, but his father had taught him one trick before their trip: how to start a fire using the spark from a broken cell. He carefully took out the tools, scraped metal, sparks flew. He gathered dry bone and old cloth from the wreckage Neva had stored in the back of the cave. After several tries, a flame burst to life. The cave glowed orange now. Warmth returned to his face. He grinned. "We'll be okay," he said. Neva turned her head to the fire, her eyes reflecting it like twin suns. She moved closer, not afraid of the flames, and lay down just beside him. Liam stared at her again. She was no monster. She was beautiful, strong, silent, and watching over him like a guardian. The fire crackled. A sound came from outside. Liam sat up quickly. Not the wind. Something else. A screech. Metal scraping over ice. Machines? Neva stood in a flash, her muscles tensed. Her ears flicked. She was listening. He held his breath. Then, silence again. Liam whispered, "Are they looking for me?" But Neva didn't relax. She stared out of the cave, tail twitching, eyes narrowed. Something was out there, something more dangerous than the storm. And Neva had already sensed it. The fire burned low, its tiny flames fighting against the cold. Liam sat close, rubbing his hands together. His skin was red, his lips dry. But the fire helped. Warmth, even a little, felt like hope in the middle of nowhere. Neva rested beside. The flames, her eyes half closed, her breath steady. The silver fur on her chest moved gently with every breath, glowing softly in the firelight. Her body gave off heat like a giant living blanket. She had stayed by his side for 2 nights now, silent, strong, protective. But tonight felt different. Liam could feel it in the air. A pressure. A silence between the wind gusts. It was as if the storm was watching, waiting. He glanced at Neva. She was awake, though still. Her ears twitched. Her tail, which usually stayed curled around her side, now tapped lightly on the icy floor. Something was wrong. Liam leaned forward, whispering, "Do you feel it too?" Neva didn't look at him. She only growled low in her throat, a sound not of anger but warning. Her golden eyes locked on the cave entrance. Liam turned, trying to see through the white wall of snow that blurred everything outside. Then, a scream. Not human. Not like any sound Liam had ever heard. It echoed across the cave, loud and sharp like metal tearing apart. Liam froze. His heart jumped into his throat. Neva was already on her feet, muscles tight, ears back. Another scream came, this one closer. Then silence. Liam stood up too fast and nearly fell. His knees buckled. He caught himself on the wall. What was that? Neva didn't answer. She moved to the entrance, crouched low. Her claws dug into the icy rock. Her tail curled behind her like a whip. Liam followed slowly, staying behind. He peeked outside, his eyes wide. The snowstorm had slowed, just a little, enough for shadows to move, shapes, slithering across the white field. Liam blinked hard. They were long, too long, thin bodies, sharp heads, black eyes, ice worms. He had read about them in a survival book, giant predators that tunneled through frozen planets. Blind, but deadly. They hunted by vibration, by movement. Liam whispered, "We can't fight those." But Neva didn't move. She was still, completely still. Then one of the worms lifted its head, sniffing the air, or sensing the heat from their cave. It slithered toward them, faster than Liam expected. He backed away quickly, tripping over a stone. The noise was small, but enough. The worm changed direction. It charged. Liam screamed. "Neva!" She roared and launched herself out of the cave. Snow burst upward in all directions. She tackled the worm in midair. Her claws sank into its flesh, and the worm thrashed wildly, letting out a terrible screech. The ground shook. Liam grabbed a sharp rock and ran outside, heart pounding. But the cold slammed into him again like a wall. He stopped, unable to breathe. Neva tore into the worm with rage. Blood sprayed across the snow, black and steaming. The worm tried to wrap around her, but she bit deep into its neck and yanked. Bone cracked. It dropped. Dead. But more were coming. 3. Shadows moved across the ridge. Neva growled and stepped between Liam and the snow. He stepped back into the cave, shaking. "We need to go." But Neva didn't move. She looked at him, deep into his eyes. There was something there, something calm. Then she charged again. Liam watched in terror as Neva leapt into the storm, taking on the second worm. The two crashed, in the snow, rolling and smashing into frozen rocks. She moved like a warrior, fast and smart, not wild. Trained. Trained? Liam remembered something from the crash files. The Thozor weren't just beasts. A long time ago they were used, engineered, by ancient alien empires as living weapons. They were supposed to be extinct now, hunted, erased, but Neva was one of them. And she had remembered her purpose. Not to destroy humans, but now, to protect one. The second worm died fast. Neva returned to the cave, limping slightly. She was bleeding from her shoulder. Liam ran to her. "You're hurt." She lowered her head, didn't complain, just lay down near the fire again. Liam tore pieces from his jacket and pressed them against the wound. "You saved me. Twice." She closed, her eyes. Outside, the snow began falling again, thick and heavy. But this time, Liam didn't feel afraid. He looked at the fire, then at Neva. She wasn't just protecting him. She was watching the world for something bigger, something that was still coming. The next day, the storm stopped. For the first time since the crash, sunlight touched the frozen world. It was cold and sharp, but it made the ice sparkle like diamonds. Liam stood near the edge of the cave, his arms wrapped around his chest. He stared out across the snowfields, amazed by how quiet it was now. No wind, no noise, only silence. Behind him, Neva rested with her head on her paws. Her wound had stopped bleeding, but she moved slower now. Liam had done what he could, cleaned the cut, covered it, but he wasn't a doctor. He just hoped it would heal. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out the small tracker from the crash. It still blinked red, damaged. He sighed. No rescue signal. Still dead. He kicked a small rock into the snow. "They won't find me, will they?" Neva didn't move, but he felt her golden eyes on him, watching, always watching. Then, a noise in the sky. Liam's heart jumped. It started low, then grew louder. A distant hum. A ship. He ran outside, looking up. A dark shape cut across the clouds. A black and silver dropship with flashing red lights. It wasn't Earth's design, alien. He waved his arms. "Here, I'm here." But as the ship came closer, he saw the symbol on its side, a blood-red triangle with a claw mark through it. He stopped waving. He recognized that mark. He had seen it in the warning files before the mission. The Dreeken Collectors, an alien group known for hunting rare creatures, mercenaries, traders, slavers. They didn't rescue people. They captured them, and worse, they were the ones who tried to wipe out the Thozor species years ago. Liam turned to Neva, eyes wide with fear. "They're not here for me. They're here for you." Neva growled low, already rising to her feet. She knew. Somehow she had known all along. The ship hovered above the snowfield, then dropped several black pods. They hit the ground and unfolded, like flowers, revealing tall armored soldiers with glowing visors and electric spears. They moved fast, spreading out. They weren't searching for survivors. They were hunting. Neva moved toward the cave mouth. Her body stood tall despite the pain. Liam stepped in front of her. "You can't fight them again, not alone." She pushed him gently aside with her paw and gave a short, quiet snort. Then she looked at him, longer than ever before. There was sadness in her eyes. She had been hiding here for years, running from these people, and now they had come again. Neva stepped into the snow and began to walk down the hill straight toward the enemy. Liam ran after her. "No, wait!" One of the Dreeken soldiers spotted them and raised his weapon. "Target confirmed. Thozor female. Move in." A net gun fired. Neva jumped aside and let out a roar that shook the sky. She slammed into one of the soldiers, sending him flying into a snowbank. Another rushed forward. She bit through his weapon and snapped his arm like wood. Liam ducked behind a rock, heart racing. He couldn't do nothing. He couldn't let them take her. He grabbed a flare from his emergency kit. His father had packed it just in case of wild animals. He lit it. The bright red flame hissed in his hand. Then he ran. He ran straight into the battlefield, waving the flare in the air, screaming, "Leave her alone!" The soldiers paused, confused. Liam stood in front of Neva, arms wide, fire crackling in his hand. "She's not your weapon. She's not your prize." The commander raised his visor. His face was cold, gray, emotionless. "You are a child. Move." "No. She's property of the Draken High Command. You're trespassing on restricted space." "She saved my life," Liam shouted. "She's not a monster. She's the reason I'm alive." The commander's eyes narrowed. He raised his blaster. Neva moved. In a flash, she knocked Liam behind her with her paw and stood like a wall between him and the gun. Her chest took the full blast. She didn't fall. She didn't roar. She only turned her head and charged. Her roar this time was thunder. She hit the commander with such force that his armor cracked. The other soldiers scrambled, shouting for backup. Liam crawled back to the cave, shaking. When Neva returned, her fur was burned, and her side was bleeding again, but she was still standing. She dropped the broken helmet of the commander at Liam's feet. He looked up at her, stunned. "You protected me. Again." She lowered her head and touched her forehead to his, then lay beside him in the snow, breathing hard. The battle was over. But the war? Just beginning. Liam's hands trembled as he pressed another strip of cloth against Neva's wound. Her thick fur was soaked in blood. It wasn't just one wound now. There were many. Her breathing was heavy, slow, but steady. She didn't cry out. She didn't flinch. She only stared ahead at the snowy horizon, ears twitching, eyes sharp. The wind picked up again. The silence of the battlefield was broken only by the soft hum of the Draken dropship above. It hadn't left. It circled like a vulture waiting for its prey to fall. The soldiers that had survived the fight had retreated, but they would come back, with more weapons, more numbers. Liam knew it. He looked around the cave, then back at Neva. "We can't stay here." She didn't move. "Do you hear me?" he whispered, voice breaking. "They're coming back." Neva blinked slowly as if trying to answer. But she didn't rise. Liam stood and paced. His boots crunched over the thin layer of ice on the cave floor. He looked down at his bloodied hands, then out at the empty snow. The sky was turning darker, again. Storm clouds gathered fast. Another blizzard was coming, and still they were trapped. He picked up the flare gun. Only one shot left. His emergency beacon had been destroyed in the crash. The Draken had jammed all frequencies. But maybe, just maybe, someone else in orbit could still catch a bright enough signal. Liam stepped outside and stared up. The wind whipped through his hair. The clouds rumbled. Snow started to fall again. He lit the flare. It burst into the sky, like a red comet shooting through the dark like a scream of fire. For a second, the whole world glowed red, then silence. Neva watched him from the cave entrance, head low, golden eyes glowing faintly. She looked weaker now. Her breaths came slower. "You're not giving up," he said. "Right?" The moment stretched. Then they heard it, a rumble in the distance, but not from above, from beneath. Liam turned toward the sound. The ice cracked, the ground shook. From under the snow, two massive shapes exploded upward, ice worms again. Bigger than before. These weren't scouts. These were the adult ones. Their white-scaled bodies gleamed like frozen armor. Their mouths opened wide, filled with rows of crystal teeth. Liam ran. "Neva!" She rose. Her body trembled, but she forced herself up. Her legs shook. Blood dripped into the snow, yet she stood between Liam and the monsters. Again. The first worm lunged. Neva leaped, roaring louder than ever before. She slammed her body into it, claws tearing across its face. The second worm struck from the side, knocking her into a boulder. Liam shouted her name. She growled and rolled to her feet. Broken ice flew everywhere. The fire in her chest had not gone out. She fought with everything she had left. The snow turned red beneath her paws. Liam didn't run. He grabbed a broken spear from one of the fallen Draken soldiers. It was heavy, too heavy, but he dragged it across the ice. "Leave her alone," he screamed. One worm turned toward him. Sensing the noise, it lunged and Neva tackled it mid-air, biting its throat. She held on even as the creature thrashed, throwing her across the field. She hit the ground hard, rolled once and didn't get up. Liam ran to her. He fell beside her body, pulling her head onto his lap. Her breathing was shallow. Her golden eyes barely opened. Blood ran down the side of her mouth. "No," he whispered. "No, you don't die. You don't leave me, not after all this." She looked at him, then slowly opened her mouth. A small device, round, metal, fell from under her tongue. A translator. She coughed once, then a quiet voice came through the device. "You are brave." Liam's eyes widened. "You can speak?" The voice was soft, robotic, but it was hers. "I was made for war," the translator said. "But I chose peace." He held her close. "You're not just some weapon. I was never meant to love, but I did." Tears ran down Liam's face. "Please don't go." She breathed slowly, taking the key, hidden under the stone, behind fire rock. "My kind must live again." Then her eyes closed. The wind screamed, and the second worm came back roaring. Liam stood up, rage burning in his chest. He turned toward the cave, grabbed the object behind the crystal rock, a glowing blue crystal core, warm and alive in his hands. The moment he touched it, it lit up with symbols. The worm charged. Liam held the crystal high. It pulsed. A blinding shockwave burst from it, bright, loud, and unstoppable. The worm screamed, then collapsed. The snow burned blue. The dropship above turned and fled, and Liam dropped to his knees beside Neva again. But it was too late. She was gone. Still, peaceful, and beside her, the snow no longer felt cold. Liam sat in silence, the snow falling gently around him like ash. Neva's body lay still beside him, her silver, fur slowly covered in white. The crystal in his hand still glowed, pulsing like a heartbeat. But she was gone. No more breathing. No more warmth. Just silence. His chest ached like it had been split open. First his family, now Neva. The only creature who ever truly protected him on this frozen world. He looked down at the crystal again. It was smooth, almost alive. Strange alien symbols circled its center, flashing in soft blue light. He had no idea what it was, but Neva had called it the key. And she had said others like her could still live. Somewhere. Behind the fire rock where he'd found the crystal, Liam now spotted something else. A small hidden box, frozen deep in the cave wall. He dug through the ice with his bare hands, ignoring the pain. His fingers were numb, cracked, but he didn't stop. After minutes of digging, the box finally came loose. Inside it was an old recording device. Small, metal, a single button on top. Liam pressed it. The device blinked, and a hologram flickered to life in front of him. A younger version of Neva appeared, standing tall, proud but not alone. Behind her were dozens of other Thozari. Warriors, mothers, cubs, families, alive. She spoke, her voice now full and clear. "To the one who finds this," she said, "you are holding the final hope of my people." Liam leaned closer. "We were made to fight, genetically crafted by the Draken to be weapons, killers, machines in fur, but some of us broke free. We ran, we hid, we tried to live." The image shook, like a memory trembling with pain. "They hunted us, killed our leaders, burned our dens. I was one of the last." She looked straight ahead, as if she could see Liam even then. "But we are not monsters. We are not mindless beasts. We loved. We learned. We dreamed." The image shifted to show young Thozari cubs playing in the snow, chasing glowing insects. One of them laughed, or something close to it. "This key," she said, "contains the DNA of every known Thozari. our memories, our thoughts, our songs, our language, and with it, we can be born again, but only if someone kind enough, brave enough, carries us forward. The recording paused. Liam felt his throat tighten. Neva's final words played next. If you are human, I trust you, because one of you showed me kindness long ago. The image faded. Liam sat frozen, heart pounding. This was it? Neva had been more than a protector. She had been a mother of a people, a guardian of her kinds. Last memory, and now that task belonged to him. He looked outside the cave. The storm had passed again. The snow sparkled in the early morning light. He had no tools, no ship, no signal, but he had the key, and he had a promise to keep. Slowly, Liam stood. He wrapped Neva's body in his blanket, pressing his forehead to hers one last time. You gave everything for me, he whispered. Now I'll do the same. He climbed to the highest ridge of the mountain, carrying the glowing crystal and the recording box. He placed them both in the sunlight. Then he built a small fire, lit it carefully, and held the flare gun one last time. One flare, one final call. He fired. The red flame shot into the sky, again, higher this time, brighter. He waited, eyes locked on the sky. And then, a distant light blinked. A ship. But not Draken. Human. The rescue team had finally seen him. Hours later, as the ship landed and medics rushed to his side, Liam didn't cry. He didn't collapse. He simply handed them the crystal and said, This is not just alien tech, this is a people. And they trusted me. The humans didn't understand at first. But when they saw the recording, they listened. Really, listened. Later, back on the station orbiting Thozor, scientists scanned the key. Their eyes widened. Inside, it wasn't just data. It was life, DNA, memory, language, and emotions. So much emotion. One of the researchers whispered, "This is a legacy." And Liam replied, "No, this is a second chance." He stood at the large window looking down at the icy world below, the place where a beast became a protector, where a monster became a friend, where he lost everything and gained something no one else had, the trust of a forgotten race. Liam stood at the edge of the observation deck, his reflection blurry in the thick glass. The stars beyond twinkled silently, and below, the icy world of Thozor spun slowly in the dark. It had been 3 weeks since the rescue. 3 weeks since he left the frozen cave behind. Since he said goodbye to Neva. But her voice still echoed in his thoughts. Her golden eyes still watched him in his dreams. Her warmth, once wrapped around him like a shield, still lingered in his chest. The human crew on the orbiting station treated him like a miracle, a child survivor, a brave boy, a lucky one. But Liam didn't feel lucky. He didn't want to be a hero. He wanted Neva to be alive. He wanted her story told, properly, completely. The crystal key, still glowing softly, now rested inside a containment field in the lab. Teams of scientists worked day and night, trying to unlock its secrets. They had already confirmed Neva's words. The DNA patterns inside it were real, rich, complex, ancient, and unlike anything in known galactic records. But what surprised them most wasn't just the biology, it was the memories. The crystal didn't just store genetic code. It carried voices, images, feelings, a living record of an entire species. Through it, they learned how the Thozari were created by the Draken, how they were used as weapons, controlled, how some broke free, and how those few survivors hid across forgotten worlds, dreaming of peace they never received. And now, all of that had passed into the hands of one boy, Liam. He was called into the command center a few days later. Captain Shira, the leader of the human expedition, stood beside the holotable. Her voice was calm but serious. "We've decoded the core," she said. "Neva was right. The Thozari, They can be brought back. Liam's heart jumped. We can rebuild them, she continued. Clone them, even raise them, using preserved memory sequences. But it will take time, resources, trust. He looked up at her. Then do it, she nodded. We will. But there's something else. The hologram changed to show a deep valley on Thozor. Far from the crash site, inside the valley were signs of old life, buried structures, faded heat signatures, remnants of a Frozari den. Liam leaned closer. We think this was where Neva was born, the captain said. And it may be the place the others were hidden, frozen, waiting. Liam didn't hesitate. I want to go back. Captain Shira frowned. It's dangerous. You've already survived more than most adults ever could. I'm not going for adventure, Liam said. I'm going to finish what she started. A few days later, the team returned to Thozor. Liam stepped onto the snow again, not as a lost child, but as the voice of the Frozari. They hiked, through wind and frost, past the wreckage of the old ship, past the cave where Neva died. He didn't stop. He couldn't. Finally, they reached the valley. Buried beneath layers of snow and ice, they found it. A wide chamber, sealed in crystal. Inside were dozens of Frozari forms, not dead, not alive, suspended, sleeping. The scientists stared in silence. Liam stepped forward, holding the crystal core in both hands. The blue glow lit up the dark. I brought you home, he whispered. He placed the crystal into the ancient slot in the floor, carved into stone long before humans walked Earth. The moment it touched the base, the ground vibrated. Lights sparked across the chamber. Energy flowed through the walls. The frozen pods hummed. Then, one by one, they opened. Soft growls filled the chamber. Eyes blinked in the dark. Golden, glowing, familiar. The Frozari were waking up. Weak, confused, but alive. Liam stood still, his heart thudding. One of them stepped forward, a tall female with silver fur and a torn ear. She sniffed the air. She looked at him. Liam didn't move. She growled softly. Then, she bowed her head. Behind her, the others followed. The boy was no longer alone. Weeks later, Liam stood before the Galactic Council. Not as a victim, not as a lost child, but as a speaker. He told them the truth. How humans had once feared the Frozari, how the Dreeken used them, how Neva saved him, and how he now stood with the Frozari, not against them. This isn't just about saving a species, he said, voice steady. It's about choosing kindness, choosing to believe in what others fear. The council sat in silence. But across the stars, people listened. The story of the boy and the beast spread through colonies and cities, not as a fairy tale, but as a lesson. And slowly, the galaxy began to change. The Frozari were welcomed, not as monsters but as survivors. And Liam, he never stopped visiting Thozor. He built a memorial at the mouth of the old cave, made from stone and crystal. On it, one simple line was written: she was feared by all, but loved by one.